Do you want to draw cards, but you hate Orcish Bowmaster and don't want to take a lot of damage? I've got the deck for you. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. And today we're going to be playing with 8 Mulch. Wait, 12 Mulch. Let me explain. So today we're going to be playing kind of a land-based combo deck, but maybe not in the traditional Dark Depths Thespian stage way that you're used to. Mulch and Winding Way are both going to work the same way in this deck. They're going to allow us to look at the top 4 cards of our library and grab all of the lands that we find, which is super, super convenient for us, and maybe it might also do something like dump an Uro into the graveyard as well. In addition to that, we're also playing Treasure Cruise, which sometimes is going to be an absolutely absurd draw engine in this deck, as we'll be playing a whopping 33 lands in this deck list. So what's the game plan? What are we actually going to do with all of these land cards that we draw? If Dark Depths isn't the primary win condition, what are we looking to do? We are going to put all of these lands into play using Manabond. Now, Exploration is still fine, but Manabond is the star of the show, because it's actually half of our combo, believe it or not. We are going to look at a lot of lands and put a lot of lands into our hand with our 12 mulches. And we're going to put them all into play at the same time with Manabond, allowing Field of the Dead to repeatedly trigger, and you might even have multiple copies of Field of the Dead. And so rather than create one 20/20 body, we're more interested in creating like 10 2/2s and going wide of what our opponents are traditionally doing. Let's go ahead and take a look at the whole deck list here. Today's video is sponsored by both moxfield.com as well as Cool Stuff Inc. And if you end up wanting to try out any of these cards in paper, use promo code ThrabenU at checkout at Cool Stuff Inc. to save 5% on your order. So here's the deck list in all of its glory. Notice how land-centric this deck is. Most of the stuff that we have is tutoring for or putting extra lands into play, and everything else are just the lands themselves. Generally speaking, this is a combo deck, and I want you to understand that going into this league, because a lot of times a lands deck will play control for a long time, with cards like Sphere of Resistance slowing down opposing decks, or Rishadan Ports going and slowing down your opponent's mana. We're not that. We're making zombies, okay? That's the plan. We're going to draw a lot of cards. We're not particularly vulnerable to graveyard hate, like there's 2 Life from the Loams in this deck list instead of maybe the usual 4 that you might expect from a land-based deck list. And I think CH Creations has put together a pretty solid list that they've submitted. I made some very, very minor changes to the sideboard, which is geared relatively heavily towards combo. We're probably not going to beat combo in 2 out of 3 games. We'll try. We have some heavy hitting cards like Meltdown, Surgical Extraction, and Flusterstorm to kind of pave the way for a chance in those matchups. And I've included some Veil of Summers as well, for times where we need to kind of play a little bit slower. And this can also double as some hate versus things like Grief, which are running around a whole lot. I'm not sure if this is fully correct, but it felt like it was at least a decent idea. Yeah, with that being said, I think let's go ahead and hop into the league here and see how this feels. Let's battle. All right, I have a bit of an awkward hand here. I am not going to be able to play Exploration on 1 or a Mulch effect on turn 2. I think I'm just going to mulligan this one. My opponent's probably playing mono black or a splash build thereof. This hand is not perfect. It's going to have to fairly play Field of the Dead nonsense. I think this is fine. Manabond is much better than Exploration, but I don't think I mulligan from here. Opposition Agent would be a little rough versus a double Misty Rainforest start. Okay, they are on the Splash build. Finding Badlands. And Thought Seizing Me. Yeah, so I believe their Splash build has Fury. They've taken my Treasure Hunt, which is the card they're supposed to take. Let's see where this goes. Do I want to fetch now around potential opposition agent? I think so. Let's do that and just grab like the Triome. So we have to worry about this being reanimated. Oh, it's another one. Finding more Badlands. And another. That is a whole lot of Badlands. It's not doing a lot right now. Beautiful. So let's fetch while I can. Finding a Trop. 1, 2, 3 cards in graveyard. I'm probably just going to bounce an Uro here. Let's play Caracas as my first land drop. Cast Uro. Do this. Play Field of the Dead. Bounce Uro. Wait. I played Caracas as my land. Did I have another land drop? Oh, no. Sorry, I played Misty. What you got? Spirit Guide. Or a Grief. That's not the grief you want. That has put Uro into a favorable zone for me. All right, 1, 2, 3. Misty can be 4. The Field of the Dead triggers now. And again, I'm going to respect opposition agent by fetching here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just do a tapped Breeding Pool. Make a 2/2. One more fetch land gets us to an Uro. Any Mulch effect probably does some things that are illegal in at least some states. Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. Fable plus Grief is fun. Oh, we have gone deep here. Yeah, and refused. That makes sense. That is another Field of the Dead. That's gonna do some work. We are fine attacking with zombies and trading bodies if my opponent wants to trade bodies, which they don't. Yes. All right, good stuff. We'll see if my opponent can, I don't know, like maybe find a Fury. Fury clearing these 2 zombies and letting them attack in for 5 is pretty good. This is not the ideal Bowmasters matchup for sure. All right. No combat for them. And I will just keep playing lands. The slow, inevitable march towards death. My opponent goes to 6. 2 more zombies. Yeah, it doesn't even matter that I can't Uro here. I'm doing points of damage in even increments, so 5 versus 6 doesn't realistically matter. Whereas the deck thinning might. Alright, we'll crash in. Wasteland Solid, I don't think I need to do that before combat or anything. Send them in. So, I just want to point out that we cast 2 spells this game. We cast an Exploration and an Uro. I guess we did, no, we didn't cast the Uro twice because I bounced it and then I got griefed. Yeah, and we won anyway. That's the power of Field of the Dead when it does get to pop off. Okay, Veil of Summer and Taiga are probably about all that I will be thinking about for this matchup. I haven't seen Opposition Agent yet, but it's like very much the sort of thing that my opponent should be playing. Tabernacle's fine versus Bowmasters and Friends, despite the fact that it's awkward versus my own Field of the Dead. Shouldered could be over there. Bog's relevant. Oseiju, I guess, technically blows up Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. I can hedge against crop rotation by going and... Or sorry, I can hedge against Opposition Agent by boarding these out. I'm not even sure that I'm going to sideboard, though, honestly. I could play Veil of Summer on the play, but on the draw, it's awkward. I'm just going to have so few critical cards in my opening hand. Yeah, this is fine. This hand is extremely good. It gets worse if my opponent takes the Manabond on turn 1. But otherwise, it will be very resilient to discard. Ooh. As a Grief pitching a Reanimate, so there's probably a second one coming. Alright, Manabond down. Ooh, tapped Witch's Cottage. Sure. Cottage is so bad. Yep. Yes, it is, Michael. Let's get the tapped land out of play this turn. Then I've got some flexibility for whether I Life from the Loam or Treasure Hunt next turn. I probably don't Life from the Loam. Like, I'm just not super interested in getting invested in my graveyard when Douthie Voidwalker is something that might be in my opponent's deck. Let me adjust this up a bit. Alright, there's a Cycler. And I assume some Reanimate nonsense is about to happen. Yep. They'll take one of the 2 copies of Treasure Hunt here. And then I'll go on with my life. Yep. Let's draw some cards. Oh god, Exploration is literally the... Okay, maybe not literally the best draw, but like second best draw. Manabond would be better, but Exploration is very, very good. That is what is going to allow me to catch up and utilize Field of the Dead in a meaningful way. Spirit Guide. Fable? Fable, that's fine. So, land drop. Exploration. I probably just nuke the Fable from orbit. Probably off like Taiga. Second land drop. I can get that back with Life from the Loam later if I need to. This does ramp my opponent. I think opening up ramp is less scary when this is already on board. If a Fury comes down, I can just auto-wara it back to hand if I need to. And I'm not that far away from stabilizing. Ooh. Yeah. I have to just let them draw cards here. Because this can randomly be 5 or 6 damage. Yeah, you get a card. Crop Rotation finds Maze of Ith, which is quite strong here. Yeah. Yeah. I don't really need Snow-Covered Island. I actually don't really need red. I'm just going to go ahead and do this now. Find Maze. By Life from the Loam. This is just destroyable, right? Yeah. I do Life from the Loam. Yeah. And we'll go ahead and both Sage you that thing so we don't have to deal with it again. I technically should have, I guess, waited for their second main phase. That thins a land out of their deck. I only end up taking 2 damage here. Then Field of the Dead is online for future turns. Which hopefully just buries my opponent. Leyline occurs. That's not actually scary. Elm could be, but I don't even know if my opponent is playing that Kroxa. That is annoying. I'll get rid of this Taiga forever. That domes me for some damage. 4 cards in graveyard. I will, I think, not dredge Life from the Loam. So, land drop, trigger Field of the Dead. I think fetch, land drop, trigger Field of the Dead. If I want to go on Wasteland Lock, I should bounce Leyline of the Void. It's a bit of a weird situation because my opponent currently has 4 cards in graveyard for this, but this is also, like, this allows 5 mana for, like, an elemental or whatever. And hardcasting the Kroxa is a thing as well. I think I'm going to try to, I don't know, like, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This draining is very awkward for me. Don't know how I'm beating that yet. It's like Combat is stable. Okay, I think I've got an out, but it's shameful. Or no, this land drop stops that out. So I can Otawara and bounce this out of play. My opponent can always just cast it next turn, even with Wasteland nonsense. I'll take a quick look at the deck list and just see if I'm missing anything. No. Not on a lot of outs. But I'm technically on some. Okay, so mana's never a bottleneck at this point. I think I double block Grief and Maze the single creature, so that I don't end up in a situation where I have one body that can't block Grief. All right, let's rip Uro off the top, please. Spirit Guide does it. All right, I have been beaten by bad magic card Kroxa. It brought great shame upon my family. I don't think I want to play Surgicals, despite the fact that my opponent does have Kroxa. When I'm on the play here, Veil is more appealing to just help me get to turn 2 where I can play. My opponent has sent me a message. Kroxa is sideboard. I also hate Kroxa. Yeah. I think my issue here is that, like, I don't want to cut crop rotations for Bojuka Bog. I don't actually want to cut any lands because I want to make maximum land drops with Manabond and Exploration. I'm not sure that, like, Veil is actively good enough to play in this specific matchup. But this one's a bit weird. One island Manabond is not gonna do it. Oh, this is a weird hand. So I can put the Manabond into play on turn 1, and from turn 2 on, I have crop rotation for Bojuka Bog available, but I don't actually have any sources of card advantage. I'm going to go to 5. I can probably find a similar quality hand. Yes, this hand is significantly better. Crop rotation out, and Bojuka Bog back to the deck. So this hand has the Manabond in play, and unless I get Griefed and reanimate Grief, my next turn is probably very strong. Let's see what happens. It is just the Palantir. I will probably always just let my opponent draw cards with this. Like, above all else, I just need to respect my life total. You may have your colorless Phyrexian Arena. I just take that out now? I don't think so. I think I need to start accumulating lands in hand. I'm going to go with Treasure Hunt this turn. There's absurd upside if this high rolls. That's relatively good. We're not going to dump all these into play this turn. I'm going to plan on casting Winding Way next turn, and then I'll probably be comfortable doing that. All right, there's a Swamp Cycle. And to reanimate the Troll. That's fine, we have plenty of outs to that. And again, we'll just let my opponent draw cards and move on with our lives. So, let's play an Exploration. This is my first land drop. I can Winding Way, or I can just get rid of the Palantir. I think I Winding Way. Grab a Taiga and see what happens. I choose land. There is a Maze of Ith. So I have to decide whether or not I want to put all of these into play. I think the answer is no. I'll just make Maze of Ith as my second land drop. Stop the Troll in its tracks. And then once I find a Field of the Dead, I execute the combo that makes zombies. Cycle away. There's the Badlands. Spirit Guide for a Leyline. Sure. Taxes my Boseiju a bit more, but hopefully that doesn't actually matter. You can draw a card. Bojuka Bog has text. I'm going to do this in my opponent's second main phase. I'm always fine with just removing that card from the graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lands in play. Am I wastelanding my opponent? Okay. It's not like the best use of resources, but I already have plenty of lands. Yeah, I think I just hold out from here. Like I could. Yeah, the issue is that like their deck is just designed to turn things into lands. So that coupled with the handful of extra draws that I've given my opponent. There is a reanimate. I accept. Oh shit, I missed a phase there. I just clicked too quickly. This was, I was supposed to blow this up second main phase. Given that I've made that mistake, I think my way forward actually probably looks like this instead now. Yeah, I don't know what that green is for, but we will remove it. Ooh, that's an insane draw. Wow, 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 wow. Okay. Cast Treasure Hunt. Find Winding Way. I was planning on Life from the Loam Wasteland. Winding Way is a little riskier, but probably worth doing. Choose land. I would like to move to my end step. I will use Manabond's ability. I would not like to pay 2 life. Triggers. Alright, we have made a couple of zombies. My opponent is at 8. We have gotten the GG from our opponent. That was a very, very strange match. But, I mean, that last turn there was a showcase of the power of this deck. We had 0 power on board, and then we had 16 zombies. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is an absolutely awesome place to keep all of your deck lists. I keep all of my personal deck lists there as well, in addition to all of the stuff that I do for the stream. And in the future, they're going to have a social media site on here too. So if you're worried about other certain websites dying, maybe join Moxfield, put your deck lists up there, and in the future, you'll be there for social media stuff too. Okay, I have what looks like maybe a reasonable hand on the surface, but without any ways to make additional land drops, this isn't actually all that good. Remember, at the end of the day, we are a combo deck. Manabond plus Life from the Loam is fantastic, and I just have to decide whether or not I'm going to pitch a random land here, so that if one of these gets countered or Prismatic Ending, I still have some gas, or if I'm just going to throw back like Breeding Pool. I think I'm going to keep both of these in case I'm playing against a white deck where I lose one randomly. I think that's my plan. So, let's fetch. Grab the basic here. No, actually, I'll grab a Trop. Exploration, Breeding Pool, Shock, and Manabond as well. And we're not using that ability for the time being. Basic land is very good against my wasteland strategy. So let's go single land drop, Life from the Loam, target Misty, then I play around a random Daze. I will go ahead and play the Misty and pass. I'm not going to put that into play. All right. So we're potentially playing against a slow blue deck of some kind. With Life from the Loam, maybe I want to leave the Triome as something that I could mill over. Taiga, Breeding Pool, Trop. About Volk. We'll dredge Life from the Loam. Found another one. I guess wastelanding the Prismatic Vista and forcing the fetch is reasonable here. Let's go ahead and do that. Blue-red. We actually might be playing against a combo deck here. This may be a sneak and show variant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to play this one. I'll hold the other. Narset's fine. I don't really draw cards with this deck. I wonder now if we're playing against like Grixis control. Jeskai control with 4th Aerlingas. Okay, got it. That's a lot of damage with haste in sort of an annoying way. There's a Field of the Dead. Fantastic. No Force of Negation, please. I mean, Force of Will is still annoying, but feels beatable. I think I can probably beat a small 4th Aerlingas. Like, I just can't... Well, I could maybe actually beat a Force of Negation. Yep. Alright, what does Narset reveal? Prismatic Ending. Yeah, that's very good. My opponent won't be able to play that this turn to get rid of my Manabond, which is nice. I'm at 12. Field of the Dead is probably just going to be a trump card here. Alright. Wasteland. Field of the Dead. Is that Bog? I'll take the Bog too. 1, 2. I need this to resolve. It did. So I will go ahead and dump all of these into play. Bog my opponent. Get a whole bunch of zombies. I'm comfortable wastelanding my opponent's Tundra. And at any moment, I can fetch for another 2/2. Here's another potential wasteland target. My opponent will probably take out the Manabond. Oh, wow, they're... Oh, no, sorry, it's just a swords. Yeah, fine. Sure. At end step, I'll go ahead and fetch. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different names already. At this point, I wouldn't care about cycling a Triome. I guess I also don't care about the tapped land, though. Let's just grab a basic island. You can have your card. We'll dredge with Life from the Loam. Just going to start my turn by seeing if this resolves before I make any future decisions. Yeah, Brainstorm's fine. Force of Negation, pitching a Narset. Understood. So I am going to end up wastelanding this Tundra. What I do with the attack is a little harder. 2 at Narset, 2 at my opponent. Maybe 3 at Narset. 1 at my opponent. I just don't want a random Echo of Eons to ruin my life, as that's one of the easiest ways that I could randomly lose this game. This gives my opponent 1 more draw. That's fine. But I probably end up taking back, or rather taking the Monarch next turn. Okay, yeah, my opponent does not currently have white mana to take out Manabond, which is great. And I get to open up card draw, or not card draw, like taking the Monarch this turn. Dredge Life from the Loam, Tabernacle, Wasteland, Misty. See if this works. It does. Fantastic. I'm fine swinging in with all of these. This is fine. All right. I am the pretty princess. Going to drop Wasteland and Misty into play. I'm just going to hold Tabernacle. Having that in play is currently annoying for me. But I'll put my Manabond trigger on bottom in case I draw another land that makes me want to change my mind. I'll just take a natural draw here. Yeah, and I'll hold these. They still just have a fast enough clock that I don't feel the need to put more pressure on board and play further into, like, Supreme Verdict nonsense. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Alright. My opponent has conceded. So, do I want any of this nonsense? I am not the biggest fan of crop rotation versus blue decks. Like, finding the Field of the Dead is very important, which is why those are there. But I think a lot of times I'm just playing a long, drawn-out game anyway. The Blasts can kill Narsets and friends. The Veils cantrip while protecting a Mulch effect. Probably not a matchup where Karakas matters. Karakas can just become Taiga. I'm going to play 2 Veils and 1 Pyroblast and be good with that. I'm going to keep the Tabernacle despite the fact that it's often worse for me than it is my opponent, but the times where it is good for me, it's incredibly important. I will be keeping this hand. It's a little interesting because of the existence of Prismatic Ending. Whether or not I actually just play out a Manabond immediately, the answer is probably no. I'm just going to Wasteland my opponent on turn 1 here since they started on Tundra. And intend on playing a much slower game. Don't really want both of those, but okay. My opponent does have a good number of basics, so there is some percentage where I lock them off of colors by doing something like that, which is cool. We're going to get a tapped land out of the way this turn. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, those cycling cards have changed Legacy, folks. See it right there. That's a cantrip off a mountain, which is illegal. Nice. So we're about to do a fake fight. This card does not matter at all. My opponent doesn't know this. Yes. I'm gonna go and grab probably a Trop given this hand. I'm going to Veil of Summer this. I am casting Veil of Summer to turn Veil of Summer into a card not named Veil of Summer. And my goal here is that my opponent uses their mana on their turn to try to deal with this Manabond, when in reality it doesn't actually matter because I just have another one. You cycling again? Not cycling again. Okay. Nice. Nice. Everything according to Kaikaku. Kaikaku. I've messed up my own joke. Treasure Hunt versus Winding Way. Probably Treasure Hunt. Oop. This one needs to tap for blue if I want to do that. I'm gonna just go for it here. I don't think my opponent has another counter. Cool. I am going to do this and make a bunch of zombies. I will have to pay for them during my upkeep, which is a little annoying. Okay, yeah. So they did have another cycling thing last turn, and we're thinking about saving it. So a Supreme Verdict is annoying at this point. Otherwise, most other things are covered. That's no Supreme Verdict, at least this turn. What else you got? Yeah, Narset's fine. Revealing Days Undoing. Okay, so I have to use 2 of my zombies to kill Narset. And I've also found a Mulch, which is super cool. Good enough for a Force of Will, pitching the Days Undoing. I still probably kill the Narset. Attack Narset, the rest will go at face. Alright, and my opponent has conceded here. Yeah, Field of the Dead can just absolutely bury control decks. This is a bit of a weird hand here. These crop rotations aren't really good. I have Exploration and Field of the Dead and 4 lands. Any source of future card advantage is pretty good. And I am on the draw. Tabernacle doesn't actually produce mana. Crop rotation's okay if I need a bailout from something like a Bojuka Bog, or I need a Mazavith to buy time. I am going to call this an unexciting keep. This one may be a mulligan. I would mulligan this one 100% on the play. All right, my opponent's on 6 and has led on a swamp, which could make my whole searching plan significantly worse. Going to play tapped Field of the Dead this turn. This is punished by end of turn Dark Ritual Opposition Agent. Okay, it's a troll. Are we playing against a mono black variant here? Alright, there's Reanimate. Opposition Agent is spooky. Additional land drop, or regular land drop, I guess. Additional land drop. Attempt fetch. Okay. I'm going to get a basic forest that I'm going to probably send away. This one will go and get a Trop. I'm going to start on an Uro. See how this goes. I will put a Tabernacle into play. I'm probably just going to sacrifice that. And I just have to decide how much I want to respect opposition agent. It's clear my opponent doesn't currently have it, so maybe I make them pay for Tabernacle in their upkeep and then crop rotation then. I think I'm good with that. Pay for your troll. And I crop rotation, sack Tabernacle, get Maze. Note that I'm not trying to turbo towards Uro. You have a second color, or is this just a fetch land? Okay, this is just a fetch land. Douthie Voidwalker, sure. Yeah, the attack is pointless here. So let us hunt for some treasure. Found Life from the Loam. Is a weird draw to. That's fine. Oh, there's Tabernacle. It's a weird draw 3, excuse me. Yeah. So Tabernacle is fine. Field of the Dead nonsense begins. Crop rotation is currently a safe thing to do. I can just get another zombie. So that seems fine. I don't really need basic forest. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does need to be something with a different name. I want a zombie right now. Maybe I don't want another zombie right now and I just get another Field of the Dead. I'm in for that. And now life's pretty awkward for my opponent. Phyrexian Tower, huh? Profane Tutor to Exile. Okay, that can represent a helm. Understood. Yeah, I am fine taking 3. Just go ahead and untap that. And I'm pretty sure that I can just race the troll. Or sorry, race the Profane Tutor. Manabond is cool. Make some zombies. Make some zombies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zombies that I can pay for. I'm fine fetching once right now. Just get something with a different name. Cool. So Tutor ticks down. And they pay for their stuff. That's no attacks from my opponent, meaning that they are fully in I'm going to try to combo off mode. Yeah. So that gains them 3 life. The land is the more important part here. Because they're going to need to pay for Douthie Voidwalker and do Helm. Are you going to just gain 3 more life here? What's happening? Uh-huh. Now this is not quite what I expected. Not to say that it's wrong. Alright, I've got some triggers. I'm going to just fetch an untapped land here. Doesn't really matter what it is. Okay, and we'll go to punchies. Punch for as much as I can punch. My opponent goes to 4. The life they gained is very relevant. 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can't pay for all of these. I'm still going to put the Misty into play, though. That way, if my opponent randomly board wipes or something, I still have 4 points of damage that can kill them. Play Douthie. Make land drop, play Helm, Phyrexian Tower, sack this. No, that costs them a mana. The 6 total mana. I guess it could be Chain of Smog combo instead. Yeah. Yep, that is what it is, and I do not have the ability to disrupt that, so I'll just see what 2 cards they discard, and I will concede. My opponent played that one very well. Yeah. Veil of Summer is probably legit here. Flusterstorm is potentially playable as well. Actually, is Veil of Summer actually good? Because the Witherbloom Apprentice is each opponent, so that doesn't target. And the Chain of Smog targets themselves, so maybe that's not actually good. Yeah, maybe that's not actually good. I'm not super interested in Tabernacle in this matchup, I don't think. They just don't want to tax my own resources here. I think I'm less worried about opposition agent now that I've seen more of what my opponent's deck does. I cut Uro. Burrow's just like not great versus Stealthy Voidwalkers. Neither is Life from Loam for that matter. Yes. So, land drop, exploration, Taiga, Manabond, and then next turn we do hot girl treasure hunter stuff. Alright, opponent is just passing here. So, make blue land drop, cast treasure hunt, immediately hit mulch. That puts me in a position where I have to do this and fetch to continue my turn. Get a tropical island. Keep getting things with different names. Looking for a Field of the Dead here. 1, 2, 3 into hand. I don't want to dump these into play right now. I'd like to wait for a Field of the Dead if possible. Okay, now I will dump all of these into play, because this Bojuka Bog takes out that card from graveyard, which may have been one of the things that my opponent kept their hand on. I will probably end of turn cycle Waterlogged Grove, just get some extra looks. Orcish Bowmasters is a thing, I guess. I don't think I care. Yeah, that's fine. But I guess I could have played around that by doing it earlier. Sure. 1, 2, treasure hunt. There's some far below average treasure hunts, feels like. All right. Extra land drop. Extra mana bond. Don't play breeding pool. Hold that till later. That's suspending a tutor. I'll take a little bit of damage. I'll hold these lands. Profane tutor ticks down. Grief resolves. And takes no cards. Takes some points of damage from the Bowmasters. Yep. This is brutal. Yeah, so ideally you want your treasure hunts to get you into another treasure hunt, or alternatively just find a Field of the Dead. And as long as you hit one of those two things, everything's fine. But like when you just hit additional Manabonds and Explorations, it doesn't feel so good. Like, I potentially just die to fair beats here, even if my opponent doesn't have a combo. Yep, that's fine. If I whiff on this draw, I'm 100% dead. I'm not dead, but I don't think I can win the game either. Like, I get a very large number of zombies. I think the shadow creature just gets me. I took like 3 extra damage from drawing my card on my opponent's end step. Still don't know that I just like clock them out in an appropriate amount of time. I need to find Maze of Ith. That's my out. If I fetch, I get an extra zombie and thin my deck, but then Orcish Bowmasters kills me, so I probably don't fetch. That's crop rotation for Maze of Ith. 2 blockers, 1 blocker, 1 blocker. I think I don't attack here. I think I need to play a little conservatively. Like, spot removal spells may exist in my opponent's list. But the hope here is that my opponent just attacks with Doughty Voidwalker, and then I get to do the crop rotation thing. I don't think I need the extra Wasteland. For that matter, I don't need the extra Taiga. So, sacrifice this. Pick up Maze. Maze, Doughty Voidwalker. I only do have 1 Maze, I believe, so the second Doughty Voidwalker is a problem. Alright, again, to not be dead to another Orcish Bowmasters, I think I just hold back the fetch. My opponent plays a flash creature. I'll need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blockers. An attack with one of these is okay. I think that's all I'm willing to do. Right, my opponent goes to 14. I'll make a critter. That's a cycle. That's a problem. I am at 2. My opponent can just cast one of my cards, drain me for 1. Yeah. And then they just had Chain of Smog combo too. Yeah, so my Bowmaster's mistake cost me a couple of points of life, but I was never beating this situation. GG's. This is a tough matchup. Okay, I don't think I like this hand. It does not have any extra land drops, which is the most important thing my deck needs to get going. This is slightly awkward, but fine. I think I have enough looks at different lands that I don't need to keep crop rotation, and I can instead just keep all of this stuff. I think that's accurate. So let's make some land drops. Very bad for me if this gets countered. I can't play a spell on turn 2 as of right now. Oof. Okay, good. Like, the follow-up isn't Wasteland. If the follow-up was Wasteland there, like, we'll unfortunately just have to play a tapped land and pass the turn. And I'm also just not going to have extra land drops here. If my opponent's a control deck, they're pulling ahead. If my opponent's a combo deck, they're pulling ahead. Basically, if my opponent's a deck, they're pulling ahead right now. This is an awkward turn because of the existence of days. Like, my ideal is play Mulch, Wasteland my opponent. I think I'm going to play towards the ideal and ignore the existence of days. Like, I still have more gas if my opponent dazes me. Sure. Cool. I love 2 mana draw 3s. And it doesn't matter too much which land I play here. I'm going to hold Field of the Dead in hand. Just... oh. Okay. I see, it's just for Murktide size. That's reasonable. So I would like to Winding Way into a Maze of Ith. Could cast Uro first. Or do this. Let's cast an Uro. Use that to put in a Boseiju. Actually, maybe Wooded Foothills. And I've already made my land drop. I will go ahead and fetch a Taiga for Hunt versus Winding Way. I think I need to just look at 4 cards 100% of the time. No, actually, I want to Treasure Hunt. Because Treasure Hunt can hit me into some critical non-creature spells. That's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, that... I need those Exploration and Manabonds pretty badly. Field of the Dead. Okay. Let's make a land drop here. And then do this. Green, blue, green, blue. To leave 1 land in there. I imagine this gets countered. Yeah, that's fine. And I will... let's see. I take 7, I go to 4. I cast Uro again next turn. Still dead to Murktide Regent. So let's Winding Way instead. Choose land. Ah, yes! Found Maze of Ith. That is exactly the card that I need. Ooh. Oh boy, is a problem. This is 7, 8, 9 damage. Maze of Ith does not win me this game anymore. How do I win now? Can't make 2 land drops either. I need Uro to resolve. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in graveyard. All right. I have a path towards victory. Everything needs to go right. All right. Zombie. Cast Mulch. If my opponent's got a counterspell, like they just have me. All right. There's Karakas and Trop. We'll now escape Uro. Uro resolves. I put in Maze of Ith. Yeah. Needing Field of the Dead and Maze of Ith this turn was awkward. I guess I could have played around days and had the Uro life put me to 4, which means I'm not dead to this. It seems like long-term the Field of the Dead is nice, but maybe I'm supposed to play around days. I would like Pyroblasts. Veil of Summer is okay. I don't like crop rotation versus pile O counter spells. This doesn't look like a Caracas matchup. That flex land can probably go. How do I feel about Tabernacle? Tabernacle Wasteland is a plan versus my opponent. I can probably cut one more land if I bring in Taiga. I don't know, like, realistically, it's probably hard for me to assemble Tabernacle plus Wasteland plus Life from the Loam without that being disrupted. Not sure that I want to cut another card from here. I think I'm just going to do this. This is fine. I am not sure if I lead on Manabond this game. Like, if I just let my opponent counter it with Force of Will or Force of Negation. I think I just play it on turn 2 instead. With backup, it slows me down. But I think I'm up for playing conservatively. It just means that discard happens and is gross. Not this time, though. Cool. Alright. So I will Mana Bond. And we've gotten Brainstorm in response. That's fine. Like, I would very much prefer not to use this Pyroblast so I can just kill a Murktide Regent later. Sometimes you don't get to do what you want. Alright, there's Force of Will, pitching Ponder. And we'll see if this resolves. Alright, it does resolve. We're not interested in this right now. Maybe I am. I discard and dredge the Life from the Loam, have Uro in graveyard. Yeah, okay. You know what? I am interested in this, actually. Ooh, there's an island cycle to shuffle Brainstorm. Yeah, instant speed without requiring a fetch land shuffling for Brainstorm is quite strong. That's not great for me. I thought about that when I made my decision. But it has to be Surgical Extraction this turn. Delver's fine. I think I am going to get the Triome out of the way right now. I'm going to hold that in hand. We'll see if Delver does Delver stuff here. Not immediately. Yep, that's fine. It's Murktide Regent. I'm probably dead to that. Like, I could have played more conservatively in a way that's better versus Surgical, where I just like wait a turn, cast Uro, or Uro gets Surgical to get to do Life from the Loam stuff. I got Wastelanded off of blue as well there. Fetch previously was Wooded Foothills, so I couldn't have gotten Basic Island to play around that. Okay. Unfortunately, I think I'm just dead. Like, this 9 damage this turn, 9 damage next turn. I need my Mazavith. And, life's bad. Second land drop. I think if my opponent finds a counterspell to back up their current situation, I'm on no outs. Alright. I am dead. Older iterations of this deck list had a full 4 copies of Maze of Ith to specifically improve the Delver matchup. Okay, I am missing a source of card draw here outside of the Uro redraw. So I'm not sure if I'm actually supposed to keep this one. All I need to pop off is one of my 12 card draws. So I'd say I have 3 natural draws plus an Uro to get that. I think I'm actually going to math. Yeah, in 4 draws, I'm 90%, no, almost 91% chance to hit. I'm going to go ahead and keep this accordingly. So, Taiga. Exploration. Tapped Triome. Pass. A Scrub Land. The white-black initiative deck list. It's a Reanimator deck. Atrax is beatable. It's very good. Well, I'm going to lose one of my redraws here. Well, will they put my Uro to graveyard? I'll read one. Alright, so they've got Entomb. Means they don't have Dark Ritual. They have 1 Faithless Looting. You know what? I don't really care what they have in hand, honestly. Like, my lines are just not impacted by their cards in this game. Alright. Lost Manabond, which is my most explosive card. Alright. Let's try to do some honest work here. Cast an Uro. Get the redraw. Make a land drop. Fine fetching. This will be a tropical island for a land with a different name. I will drop an Exploration. Maze of Ith is great. Caracas is great. Crop Rotation is great. Any one of my 12 mulch effects is very good as well. Not necessarily assuming that this will still be in my hand as of the end of the turn. There's a Grizzlebrand. I mean, I'll take a redraw. I will make the extra land drop. And we'll see how bad this gets. I don't know how ham my opponent is supposed to go in drawing cards here, just because, like, attacking my hand doesn't do a ton. But I assume that one grief or equivalent is probably a good thing to do. Oh, they're going to put an Archon into play. Don't like that. So the new plan involves the Tabernacle and Wasteland, I think. Things got a little weird here. And then my opponent will discard some cards. Land will not do it. 7, 14, more than 15. No ability to play Uro. I will concede. So, Flusters and Surgicals are solid. I will play Veil to help protect my Surgicals from grief in particular. Am I killing with zombies 100% of the time? Like, am I boarding Uros out? Probably. Life from the Loam is very slow for this matchup, and dredging this means I won't have draws towards Surgical. I should maybe just get rid of Tabernacle. Like, my opponent does have a basic land, if not more than one, that they can fetch to play around me, wastelanding them out of all of their stuff, so they always lose their creatures. I need 3 more cuts if I want to play all of this. The issue is I can't cut a lot of stuff. Like, I can't go too deep on cutting lands. Maybe I could cut Exploration. No, I don't know. Like, Manabond becomes more awkward when I start doing this stuff, but Manabond is my own combo. Maybe I just don't fluster. I have to be careful not to cut too much of the core of my own deck. Yes. This is missing critical pieces that I do want, but this has a Veil of Summer to back up this Surgical Extraction, which is exactly the sort of thing that I want from an opener. And hopefully we can find something a little bit more unfair to do as this game goes on. All right, there's the looting. Double creature is not what I want to see. Oh, this is awkward. I always want to do that. I think I can't play Exploration here because I need to just hold Veil of Summer up. Just feels too important to protect my stuff in hand. Yep, that's fine. All right, more critters to graveyard. Tapped lands are very brutal right now. Definitely scared. All right. Oh, yes. I am into that. So we will cast Exploration and double drop Field of the Deads into play while holding up Surgical and Veil of Summer. All right, my opponent's just chilling. Yes. Yes. I can cast Winding Way first, though. But I'm almost certainly doing Wasteland nonsense. Yep. All right. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different names. I will Wasteland my opponent in their upkeep. Goodbye, land. Ooh, my opponent is moving to discard. There's an Archon in there. All right. Yeah, now I'm just going to start doing the thing that my deck does. What? Not the Winding Way I wanted, but the Winding Way I got. You have 5 different names right now. Yep. I'm not going to draw extra cards with this. I'm just going to leave the lands in play. All I need to do is naturally make some land drops. Fantastic. Maze. Misty. These trigger, and I am going to get 2 more zombies in the not too distant future. This is going to be a lot of power very quickly. All right, Petal's fine. Opponent's still not willing to make any moves. My opponent notably has 2 Archons and 2 Atraxas, meaning that my Surgicals can clear out both of those things. Flashback Faithless Looting, absolutely. Discarding 2 Grizzlebrands, and my opponent conceded. Okay. I thought they were wiggling for a spot where they could play around something. They just straight up had nothing. Okay. How do I want to adjust when I'm on the draw here? Wasteland felt very good that game. My opponent has complained about 22 cards without a payoff card when they kept their 7-card hand. Just saying. London Mulligan's good. Use it. If you had no payoff card and no interaction, I don't know that your hand was a keep. Do I get rid of Manabond on the draw? Like Manabond discarding my pieces of interaction is a disaster. I'm gonna go Fluster, Loam for Wasteland. If I play 1 Loam, I should probably play both. Nah. Alright, so I have to make my mulligan decisions knowing that I don't have Manabond. This is a mulligan for sure. Opponent's on 5. This is an incredibly good, fair hand that looks at so many extra cards. But I don't actually have a way to stop my opponent from winning, which I probably need to do when I'm on the draw. I'm going to go deeper than this. Opponent's on 4. So they are mulliganing to try to get me early. This is a very good 5-card hand. Like, it's this. It has a lot of redraws. I don't have a surgical. I think I'm going to go to 4. At some point, I have to consider keeping a mediocre hand. But I think I'm going to go 1 deeper. People in the comments are screaming at me. Yeah, just whiffed on seeing a surgical in all of those hands. Okay. 1, 2. I'll probably keep Wasteland. 3, 4. Draw Flusterstorm to get punished for holding back. All right, opponent passes the turn, which is awkward for me because my turn 1 was supposed to be Wasteland this. But now my turn 1 can't be that anymore. They just fetch a basic if they know about that. Okay, cool. My opponent's hand is weak, which means that I have time to draw a surgical, which is super nice. We'll go ahead and take out that scrubland. And we'll hope that my opponent at some point just kind of YOLO goes for it. All right, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Casting Winding Way into that is a little awkward. We'll see if my opponent realizes that. I fully just have to cast it. All right, I got to draw 2. All right, my opponent is just going to try to beat me to death. That's fine. Like, even on a weak hand, I probably end up outpacing that. So we do this again. Land. Let's put a Field of the Dead into play. At this point, I would kind of love to draw Manabond, which currently is not in my deck. But again, if I drew Manabond, I would be getting rid of Surgical, which puts me shield down to the things that would actually kill me. All right, I'm at 14. Sure. I can't Wasteland my opponent anymore. I just have to make land drops and work towards Field of the Dead being good. I'm just going to die to fair creatures, unfortunately. I don't think I'm supposed to cycle Waterlogged Grove. All right, I'm at 9. Sure. Play Waterlogged Grove for a thing with a different name. If I miss on my next turn, I have to cycle Waterlogged Grove to try to hit Mazavith. But then I'm just like not in great shape still. All right, I'm on 4. All right, so I can cycle Waterlogged Grove to draw a card. All right. Is playable. There's Maze. Maze lets me live another turn. At some point, I've cycled this stuff wrong. I didn't leave Fluster up. Yep, so I get to Maze. I can't play Surgical Extraction anymore, so I'm dead to the Reanimator side of my opponent's deck. Let's see if that happens. Nope. I can't think of outs here because I can't dump an Uro into graveyard. Uro even in my deck currently. Uro's not even in my deck currently. Yeah, I need more copies of Maze of Ith to get through fair situations like this, unfortunately. I will concede. I do not regret my mulligan decisions because, like, my opponent had, what, 5 or 6 turns there at any point, and if I didn't have this surgical, they would have just gotten a large creature. And then my deck just didn't do its thing, which is okay. So how do we feel about old 8 Mulch, 12 Mulch, now that we've played a league with it? Medium, honestly. Like, the deck did some things, and it was powerful, but my biggest problem is that I don't have enough interaction with creatures to stop go wide strategies. Like, and man, did I need that Singleton Maze of Ith just repeatedly throughout this league. So if I were going to play this deck again, I would rebuild this in a way so there's a full 4 copies of Maze of Ith. And I'm not entirely sure how you approach the deck beyond that. If you go to 4 Maze of Ith, you probably need another Yavimaya in there. And I'm not sure what you do regarding, like, crop rotation, Uro, Life from the Loam. Like, these kind of feel like the flex slots here. Uro did randomly take over a couple of games, and, like, it has some neat synergies with the deck, like just being able to be dumped into graveyard, being mulch, or discarded to your hand via Manabond. Ultimately, I feel like this isn't quite there in its current build, but there's a lot of power here. Maybe in a time where everyone is trying to go wide with many creatures, like with things like Orcish Bowmasters, while simultaneously reanimating large creatures like Oliphant and Troll of... you, like, can't play a deck that only has a single Maze of Ith as its creature interaction. That's kind of where I'm at. As far as the sideboard goes, like, the idea of playing these things that you want to hold in hand while also being a Manabond deck is really awkward. So maybe you're supposed to play, maybe not Sphere of Resistance type cards, but something of that effect that you can play to the board rather than have to hold on to it forever. It's like not having Manabond in that final round because I have to hold up Surgical is definitely awkward, right? So maybe you lose some of the speed of Surgical and you play some sort of Grafdigger's Cage, Relic of Progenitus type card. You're going to want to play something that does not stop your own Uro. Maybe it's Tormod's Crypt, maybe it's something else that can cycle, like you are alive from the Loam deck, at least as of right now as well. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at. If you end up wanting to pick up any cards for this deck or other decks, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. And folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya.